Welcome back. On to an exclusive conversation. We spoke up with IHH HealthCare's Group CEO, Dr. Prem Nair, and as IHH bets big on India, they also plan to hike their stake in Fortis. Let's listen in to that excerpt.
At 31%, we control Fortis, and we are quite happy with the way things are at the moment. Fortis today, as you know, they are a listed company here with their own board, with their own management. And they have been, even before the MTO was concluded, they have been growing on their own steam, I would say. But with the MTO now concluded, they can grow at a faster pace. We can inject capital into the company. So we are poised, I would say, for more growth. We have stated publicly that we are looking to increase the bets from the current 6,000 plus to about 10,000 by 2030. So definitely a lot of our capital from IHH is going to come into India, right? And Fortis is the vehicle that we will use to expand our presence here.
But before we dive into the story about the widening of your footprint, this number 31% is something that you're comfortable with, at least in the interim, in the near term? Well,
we are comfortable, I would say, but certainly we would like to see over the next few years us increasing our stake. We previously stated, as you know, that we'd like to reach 50%, but that's I would say, medium to long-term target, all right? So we will do it slowly. That's not going to cost any, even if you're going to put in any money, Fortis must have some use for it, all right? And I think that's a key consideration. They are doing brownfield expansion. They are doing bolt-on sort of growth.
Sure.
They are doing, they are buying hospitals within their clusters, like, you know, Punjab, they bought Jalandhar, NCR, Manesar, Peopletree in Bangalore. These are all their clusters, so they are increasing. All this is done by Fortis on its own. But assuming they want to do a big M&A, and I think that's where, right, the money that we put in will come in useful.
Well, speaking of the big bucks, tell us, you're bringing the entire crew here to New Delhi. Tell us about it in terms of capital allocation. What you mentioned that there is a great deal of interest in India. What does that translate into in terms of capital investments bringing into India?
Sure. So, you know, we're in 10 countries.
Yes.
Our key countries are Malaysia, Singapore, Turkey, and now India as well, right? Most of the expansion will take place in Malaysia and India. So by that, you can assume that we are going to put in more capital into India, right? That's going to be a sort of a priority to grow Fortis.
You also mentioned the widening of the footprint, the figure that you've given us, 10,000 beds by 2030. Tell us, when you talk of these capital investment, how will this be deployed in achieving that target?
Sure. Yeah. So firstly, today, about 6,000 plus beds, right? By 2028, just the brownfield expansions that we have, and you know, brownfield expansions are really operationally the best in terms of leverage, because you're using an existing hospital that's got its ICUs, it's got its operating theaters, it's got all the heavy duty machines, and we are putting an additional 100 beds to use these facilities. So your operating leverage is very good, all right? So we are doing that. That'll give us an additional 2,000 beds, all right? So you're really talking about 8,000 beds in the next few years. If a good M&A comes along and we look at it, and we are very, very disciplined with our M&As, all right? There are many, many private equity players out there, all right, and they buy hospitals at certain valuations, as we know, for their various reasons. We are a strategic investor. The acquisition must make sense, all right? It must be accretive, all right, immediately or in the near term, all right? It must bring synergies to our various areas that we are in. India is a large country, yes, all right? So we have to be very disciplined about where we go to. So if it meets all these requirements, then we'll do an M&A that will bring it up further from 8,000 to 9,000 to 10,000. So I would say that's the North Star that we are aiming for by 2030.
All right, so that was IHH. But before we close, it's a great